take it that the meeting's now being recorded and transcribed? Okay. I'm going to call the November 30th Tennessee Board for Licensing Contractors to order and would like to start with a roll call. Carolyn, please.
Present. Present.
Present.
Here. Entertain a motion to, well, we have one item change on the agenda that I would like to note, and it's been requested. We move the rulemaking hearing portion of the agenda to the very last item on the agenda, and with that, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. The motion carries. The next item on the agenda is an informal hearing with wood construction and remodeling.
Yes, good morning, Board. This is Ani Falat. I'm the attorney handling the wood construction cases. As the Board recalls, the respondent agreed to a summary suspension on October 27th. The respondent has proposed an agreed order to waive their opportunity for an informal review today and have their license remain suspended until their criminal matters have been concluded. What we're recommending is that the suspension remain in effect pending a hearing for revocation. Basically, the attorneys reached out to me earlier last week and wanted to waive their right for an informal hearing pending their criminal investigations with TBI to move forward on the revocation hearing. But between now and then, their license will be suspended. We just need an order stating that the board agrees with that, which I have prepared, but that is your decision to agree to that order or not.
What does this do? Does it allow them more time to?
It allows them time to respond to the criminal investigation with TBI, but it also suspends their license and doesn't allow them to contract with anyone else in the state of Tennessee.
So do we have any knowledge of them continuing contracts? Have they ceased all operations?
Per their attorneys, they have ceased all operations, but we still do get complaints from the previous contracts they have signed and tried to complete in the previous months before they ceased.
Is this any way delaying the board's action?
No, this is actually standard procedure. We already have the suspension in place, so there's no threat to the community when it comes to them contracting with our citizens. This kind of just puts our matter to the side while their criminal investigation is pending, so it doesn't interfere with the TBI's investigation.
Does it have any delay process on a civil hearing that consumers that have been wronged, does it delay their civil hearings any?
No.
Any other questions from the board? Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the order. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. So moved.
All right, thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is Trails Installation Construction License. We have a discussion for that.
Cindy Cantillo is now exiting.
Department of Environment and Conservation has asked if we would defer that until January, and they plan on coming at that time to discuss the trails installation contracting.
Okay, we'll defer that. We have a pre-licensed exam course provider.
This is classesforcontractors.com. They offer electrical exam prep courses, and this was emailed to all of you all, and it's also, their application is in your tablet if you need to look back at it. They've paid their $1,500 fee, and they have their bonds in place, and they just want to offer electrical pre-license exam courses. So this isn't continuing education. It's exam prep only.
I'll ask our electrical member, Andy, did you check it out?
I did review it. It looks good. They're out of Florida. Everything looks legit.
Make a motion.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Have a motion to accept the pre-licensed exam provider, Classes for Contractors, and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. The motion carries. Do we have our September 28th meeting minutes?
The court reporter says she would have these ready for us by January's meeting.
Okay, since we don't have that, we'll move on to license reviews and approvals by the board. We've got the hardships. Has everyone looked over the hardships? And as we do these individually, we'll do them as a group at the end. We'll do it, but I just want to make sure that we get an approval motion for each one. We've got an approval for the hardship motion, and do I get a second on that one?
Second.
Okay. The license approvals, contractor apps, waived interviews. Can I get a motion to approve that?
Motion.
And a second? Then revisions. These revisions include class change mode and name changes.
I'll move for approval.
Move for approval. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, then we get into LLEs.
So there was 4 of those. 10809 was approved. 59736 is approved. 58950 is approved. 47124 was the penalty. He had a $1,000 penalty assessed on him by the board in 2006 over a complaint. So it needs to be he needs to settle up, and then it would be approved after he settled up with that penalty.
I'm going to take that as a motion to approve. Do I get a second for that one?
Second.
LLPs.
Yeah, we just had one LLP, number 3503, which I approved. So I make a motion, we accept the LLPs.
Can I get a second?
Second.
And the home improvement contractors.
I have 3 that I have in a fine that I suggested. Beard Home Improvement LLC, license number 10220. Proposed a $500 civil penalty on that one. JCB Construction LLC, number 10340, a penalty of $1,000. Josh Bliss Harris, license number 10361, $1,250 civil penalty. Make a motion.
There were those you interviewed today.
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else have a interview that they did today they would like to present?
I've got one, Keith.
Okay.
This is Master Stucco. They were applying for a BCA and B. Both you and Randy looked at their application and questioned their experience. I talked to them and they showed me lots of pictures and what their plans were, and I'm ready to approve them for $1 million license. I have a factor. Are we on factors yet, or
We're into those as well. So let's just read what you've got.
All right. On the factors, I had reviewed Chattanooga Exteriors, which is applying for a BC A and B, I believe. Let's see. Small B, BCA and small b. As it turns out, this is a company that another licensed contractor had set up to do subcontract work, and they were working mainly as a subcontractor performing work for other licensed GCs. So they really didn't need a license as long as they stayed with their subcontract work. And it's hard to tell that if they've done anything as a prime. So I had recommended a fine for them before issuing the license, but after some correspondence with them, I am going to waive that fine and just approve them.
All right, I've got 3 interviews that I had today. One was Dixon Home Solutions. I had questioned, they were looking for a full BC, and I had questioned their experience in the industrial side. They've given me some experience, and I talked to the guy and understanding what he's going to be doing. I approved his application for $619,000 for a full BC. Keith and I met with Ultimate Finishes, and they were looking for an increase from $1 million. Let's see, they were looking for an increase from $1.1 million to $3 million, but they didn't have the experience to warrant that sort of increase. So we agreed to an increase up to $1.5 million, and that's what we're recommending. Then I had Stevie Daniel Construction, who was looking for a $750,000 license. I had originally reduced that to, I think, $500,000, and but after meeting with the gentleman and getting some more information and a better understanding of what he was going to do, then I agreed to $650,000. So that's the three I had.
Have any? Reese?
Sure.
Anyone else?
I have one. Oakmont Custom Homes. They had an open complaint. They were applying for a monetary limit increase, but they did have an open complaint filed by a former employee. The complaint stated that the company had bid projects over their monetary limit. 5 projects, they bid those, but they hadn't begun construction. No permits were pulled on any of those. And so I recommended a $200 fine per incident. There were 5 incidents, $4,000 civil penalty, and approve the monetary limit increase as their financial support of that.
Any?
No, I don't have any.
Okay. I have several. CJ Management and Consulting. They were scheduled for an interview. I had reviewed their file. they had listed several housing flips that they done. After I went over the file, I did confer with Ronnie. There is 6 projects that they have listed that they were actually flipping houses. These were pretty expensive houses. I'm proposing a $2,500 penalty per each one of the 6 projects. That'll be a total of $15,000. Ronnie agreed with that assessment.
One other thing on that, they were doubling their money or more on each one of those projects.
And I have Intelligent Sound Designs. It's license number 10318. It's a new applicant, and I denied it because they have absolutely no experience whatsoever in the construction business. Forest Hills Remodeling, I'm not sure. Yeah, I've got that in here. They had I think a revoked license or whatever. I interviewed them today, and I approved them. I've got another one here. It's Heroes Home. I'm not sure. They don't. I had went over this before and issued a $5,000 civil penalty. I think that was for unlicensed contracting, and they were supposed to interview today, and they did not show for the interview, so I still keep that penalty in place. I'm not sure if 10166 Dustin Joseph, DBJ Construction, Kathy.
He wasn't able to make.
I'd have to have the file in front of me to know what that one was. Also, I have home improvement application number 10137. I proposed a penalty. They had projects over $3,000 in Hamilton County without a license. That was a $500 fine. Had home improvement number 10239, a $4,000 fine for 3 projects in Rutherford County and 1 in Davidson County that were over $3,000 without a license. Home improvement number 10317, a $500 fine for 2 projects over, and I think that should have been $500 each for 2 projects in Davidson County over $3,000 without a license. Home improvement number 1189, $750 for 3 projects in Shelby County that were just right around the $3,000 line, but over, just over by several $100s. $500, home improvement number 10177, $500 for a project in Knox County over $3,000 without a license. Home improvement number 10327, $1,500 for 3 projects in Rutherford County that were over the $3,000 limit. Home improvement application number 10337, $500 for 1 project over $3,000 in Rutherford County. And then home improvement number 10361, $2,500 for 5 projects in Davidson County over $3,000. Now we have motions and seconds. I hope we've covered, I think we've covered all our,
I have just a couple on here.
Okay.
We need to get you all's vote on. It's on page 7 of the interview list and applications of factors. It's 67517 Rhythm Builders. He's transferring to a sole proprietor from LLC, and he had listed a few projects on here that he had done prior to the transfer, and I had Benny look at this, and he went ahead and it's approved. I've got True Point on here. It's 8648, and this is one where the renewal was closed and flagged, and as soon as the complaint was closed, the contractor renewed or attempted to renew, and so we held the renewal and till the board could look at it, and so we're just asking for the board to hold the renewal until the complaint is closed. Is that what we do? Legal does recommend to hold the renewal, and it will be on the legal report. So, it is on the legal report to deny the renewal anyway. So, this way, we'll make sure that the transfer and the renewal both get held. And name of the company, he had a complaint, but it was from against the father, and so the daughter and the father had initially applied for a license. She came today and interviewed with Reese, and they were removing the dad, and it's just going to be her as the owner, and he recommended approving it for BCA for $500,000 limit.
who is that?
MDT. Construction LLC. They were not on the interview list, so we'll have them added. She was just concerned and went ahead and showed up. And I believe
You have Deer Creek Homes.
this is another where it was closed and flagged. I don't know if it will be on the legal report, but the same thing happened as soon as it was closed. The contractor attempted to renew, and they still have several complaints that are open, and some of them include elder abuse. So we're asking for that renewal to also be continued to be held.
Okay, I think that I have motions and seconds on. Benny, do you have one?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Home improvement number 10263, Ad Creek Concrete Services. $200 penalty for projects over 3,000, and I intended that to be per project. They've had, if I remember correctly, a couple of smaller ones, and also home improvement 6643, Rome Builders, $250 penalty for projects over 3,000 in Davidson County. while their license was expired.
Okay, we got any other applications with factors?
I do have one more. It's on your list of interviews and factors on page 5. This one is also, it's Rhythm Builders Inc. doing business as Smart Design Build Inc. They were told to reapply, to change their name because somebody already had the name Rhythm Builders. They had already invested a lot of money in that name and didn't realize when they applied for a license and got their financial statement that someone already had that name. They're asking if they can do an assumed name with the Secretary of State and work as Smart Design Build Inc. But then they will still have Rhythm Builders Inc., but it'll be doing business as Smart Design Build Inc. And I've never had that issue come up before and whether they could do that or not.
Legal, how do our attorneys feel about that? We've got one company already with a license, Rhythm Builders, and we have another company that applied for a license, a different license under the name of Rhythm Builders, but they're wanting to work DBA as Smart Design Build Incorporated. And would they be advertising like Rhythm Builders doing business as Smart Design, or would they just be calling it Smart Design Build?
And their contracts, what would be on the name when they signed the contract?
I think to Reese's point, the rule that I think this would turn on the rule that contracting in the name that is on their license. And if the name that's not on their license is not what they're contracting in, I think that would most likely be a violation of the rule that requires them to contract in the name that's on their license.
So can we as a board discuss and agree that maybe they need to change their name on their application?
Right, and I'm wondering, and I think they were supposed to come in for an interview, I thought, but could they operate just as Smart Design Build Inc.?
If that name's not taken as well.
And but if they're registered with the Secretary of State and it's just the same name, if it's still Rhythm Builders doing business as, can the license say Smart Design Build Inc.?
The license needs to match the contract, so it would not work.
We can't change the name in the system to just Smart Design Build Inc.
Their federal employee number name needs to match their license, needs to match their contract.
Federal, okay. I'll let them know that then. That's all I have.
You do River Divide?
Yes, I did. River Divide Construction. It's also on here, page 5 of the book of the interviews. This was a subcontractor of Titan, which was revoked at the last meeting, and so I'm not sure which board member reviewed it. Do you know? It was flagged that they're a subcontractor to someone that had their license revoked. I think we probably need them to come in and interview.
I would think so, much the way we did the other one that I did earlier today, and let's have a discussion with them and make sure that everything is clean, that they're not trying to fill in the work that was left by the previous company.
Sounds good, then.
So they're owned by the same owners of Titan, or they were subcontracting work from Titan?
They were subcontractors for Titan, so they were actually working on some of their jobs.
Why is that a violation?
May have been them that did the poor work. I'm not sure.
Find out more about them.
Yeah, the one I interviewed today was perfectly fine, even though he'd done work for a company that we're having a problem with. But I think it would warrant the board just to at least have a sit-down interview with them to discuss what their plans are and if they have any intentions of, completing the work under the disputed contract. So, under all the license reviews, the hardships, the license approvals, contractor apps, contractor revisions, LLEs, LLPs, home improvements, and our applications with factors, I have motions and seconds. So, is there any further discussion on those? Okay. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed likewise. The motion is approved, and we'll go with our legal report now.
Hi, this is Stuart Huffman, Associate General Counsel, Disciplinary Counsel for the board. Recently, I've been transferred.
Aaron Lamb
and
is now exiting.
I was here, I guess, 3 years ago, so just wanted to say hello again. It's great to be back. I know familiar faces. There's a couple of you, so I just want to introduce myself. The legal report, there was only one change, and it was number 67. 2021-065-361. We had originally recommended a civil penalty for unlicensed contracting. However, the respondent proved that they were licensed at the time of the project, so the recommendation was closure, and that was agreed to. So all other cases were agreed to as recommended.
On the commercial side, we had a problem with one as well. 202-105-8761.
What's the number on that?
74.
The incorrect. He's got to have permit, so he needs to provide proof of permit, or we need to take action, one of the two. So we really want him to provide proof of permit.
Okay. We'll make that change.
All right, do I have a motion to accept the legal report as amended?
Motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. The motion carries. The next item on the agenda is one that I brought. It's regarding the continuing education that starting in January upon the renewals for our licenses. I got concerned because I was getting messages from different places across the state that people weren't aware that they were going to be required to have their 8 hours of continuing education or be a member of the Home Builders Association, which would qualify them for that 8 hours. So I talked to Carolyn, and we asked the legal to give us an opinion as to what we could do if, in fact, starting January 31st, when they submit a renewal, they don't have their continuing education and claim that they did not know about the requirement. What can we do to just not shut them down, to give them a period of time that they could either join the home builders or get their 8 hours in? And I think we got a report back from legal that do we have to, as a board, approve that policy?
I think it would be in the board's interest to approve it as a board. when I reviewed the rules and the statute pertaining to RCE, I didn't see anything that would specifically prevent the board from making the determination that some kind of safe harbor for a specific period of time to ensure RCE compliance would be counter to the statutory intent. The enabling statute provided in TCA 62-6-112 subsection G1 provides the board that proof of compliance with this requirement, the RCE requirement, must be filed with the board biannually in the format required by the board as a condition for maintenance or renewal of the license. And I think importantly in this statute, it doesn't explicitly say proof of compliance must be prior to renewal or before renewal, but it says that it must be in the format that's required by the board. So this suggests the board has further discretion of how the CEs, these continuing educations, are to be required and the format in which it comes into the board. I will say, though, the statute also requires the board to develop the rules, which you have done, to effectuate the statute, and the rules governing the format is what the board has determined. And the rules themselves are mostly silent on the board's extension or providing some kind of probationary period. But notwithstanding that, I think if the board determines that this is the best means to ensure compliance with the statute and with the statutory intent, that some type of provisional renewal being subject to the chairman's point, being subject to obtaining those RCEs and completing that is most likely within the discretion of the board. And it is a reasonable use of the board's authority to create a format that facilitates compliance with the RCE requirement and within the format requirements that is contemplated within the statute.
So if we give a provisional renewal, we'll put a time frame on there. So what, 30 days, 10 days, what seems reasonable?
I think that would be within the board's discretion to determine what that time frame would be, what you think is within the industry's best efforts to obtain those RCEs. But I do, to your point, Ms. Ransom, I think that there has to be a very hard line on the time frame for this kind of safe harbor to carry the force and effect of what the statute is designed to do.
I think 90 days is ample. I think that would give them, in the event that they were to schedule a course, that would give them the opportunity to find a provider and be able to get themselves scheduled and pay for that course. They could easily join the Home Builders Association and become effective immediately. But at the same, if they were to decide to take a course, I believe we need to give them, and we could say 60 days. Surely they could get a class scheduled, but you never know when a provider is going to have that course scheduled.
So just so I'm understanding this, we're going to give them a temporary license for 60 days, and then I'm just worried about the workload on the state.
I got you.
You're going to deal with a temporary license, so you're going to have to administer those. Like, you've got to have a copy of your license to pull a permit. So we're going to produce all these temporary licenses, and then in 60 days reproduce the real license. I don't think we
don't have the staff to
physically
do that. I don't believe y'all got enough on y'all right now to do that. I don't see how y'all can do that.
When did this letter that we're looking at, this time to renew letter, when does that go out?
It'll be going out. Well, it actually went out we sent an email out right before Thanksgiving, and then we're doing the postcards will go out the first week of December, which is this week, since they are printing them. But and then we've been working with our communications director. We're printing posters and sending them to all the codes offices to post those, and they're going to be doing social media. And then we're going to do the notices, the postcards out monthly for each contractor when it's time to renew. But I really think we need to give them 90 days to get it in. I don't want to put them out of business because they didn't know about it. So as far as a temporary license, I don't.
How could they not know about it, Carolyn? I mean, it's all over for the past year.
We don't know for sure they don't know about it. We're just getting from the Home Builders Association. They have mentioned that a lot of their members weren't aware of it, and so we just want to be cautious and not do that. The only thing I need to do is was issue the license, and if they don't get it in 90 days, open a complaint. Instead of giving them a temporary license.
That means you got a 2-year license with a complaint on it, right?
Or could do a summary suspension, maybe. I don't. I know.
I
I'm grasping.
understand.
I just don't want to hold somebody up from working if they legitimately did
If they
not
want a
know.
license, they need to be able to figure out where I go join the home builders or where I go take 8 hours of education.
And it may be, we've got better processes in place to approve once. So, for instance, let's say my license got expired on the 31st, and I said, oh no. So you told me I had to go take this class, so I did. So February the 15th, I'm done. I give it to you. We have better processes in place to expedite their license to get renewed than we do trying to give out temporary licenses. So we're only talking about a select group of contractors. Do you think that would be you tell me, do you think that administratively would be an easier way to handle it on our end?
A temporary license.
Not do a temporary license, let their license expire. What's going to happen is their license is going to expire, and then in March, they're going to go try to pull a permit. And they're going to be like, dang, my license is expired. So then they're going to come to you, and you're going to say, you got to get your CEUs. And then they're going to go get those. So
What about the contractors that are in the middle of a job?
well, if you're in the middle of a job, you're good.
No, not.
You don't have to pull any permits.
No, but the law, the way the law is, there's case law that if your license expires any time on a job, they don't have to pay. The homeowner doesn't have to pay. I've got contractors who've lost a lot of money because of that.
Complete the job.
No, you sure can't. Your license has to be
Active.
Through the whole process. I had a contractor lose $80,000 and was in tears because he thought his license had been renewed and it hadn't. And then, but I've seen it printed in case law where it's homeowners find out about it and they like to take advantage of that technicality. So.
Yeah, but every contractor that's affected by this rule is going to get a mailed physical piece of paper telling them to do this, correct?
Yes.
In the month of December, and then they have 30 more days to get it done. Right? I mean, that's a question, sorry.
Maybe we're imagining a problem that couldn't be. I see Andy's point.
Yeah.
It's going to be a nightmare for you all to try to manage it.
It will be. I just don't want
if we let them go on into suspension or what would you call it? Expired status.
Yes, expired
it
grace.
Would be expired status. They've got a grace period to renew that.
Yeah.
What is that period?
They don't have to take the test or exams or anything during that grace period. What is the grace period?
It's 12 months.
Before they renew.
But you
That's
can't
basically
operate.
it.
But you can't operate during that 12 months.
Well, they'll get on the stick.
Yeah. I mean, we can try it if we start getting some hardships and the legislature starts getting calls, then we might want to back up and yeah.
Well,
are contractors notified when their licenses expire?
Yes.
If they're notified, I mean,
Up to them.
it's up to them.
Why?
Yeah.
Out of my calls because our association does that religiously, and she's over there smiling. She knows what I'm talking about, and I get concerned about that. I mean, you know, think that we can just wave a magic wand and something happens, but
I think if you create a grace period, it's just going to get worse, right?
yeah, I mean, that's what concerns me, and I was thinking this whole thing about our association should have already sent a letter out to all our members that they should have done that, not the Memphis Association as well as the state association, and so we're trying to do right, but I'm going to tell you, just because we're trying to do right, our members really don't all do right.
Well, and that's one of the reasons that we approved the Home Builders Association to do this, is to educate their members.
Right,
I mean, that's
exactly.
the entire purpose of this.
And that's what we try to do. But
so, in any continuing education class, surely to goodness they tell you that your license is going to expire every 2 years, and you probably need to get another one.
Yeah, well, I mean, ask Jennifer how she's going. I don't know how many she gets, but I can tell you who gets it over here.
Well, maybe the consensus of the board is just leave it as it is. Now we've got a grace period. When they realize that the next permit they try to pull, they can't get it, they're going to come, and if they scream, they'll just have to go do what they need to do to go through the process. Maybe we're just trying to baby people too much.
Probably right.
And
Yeah.
we've made this process so easy.
Yeah, we did.
It's a simple process.
Join the Home Builders Association or go take one of these classes.
It's an easy fix.
All right.
There's a lot of remodelers and folks who don't have to pull permits, but as long as they're being notified of their license being expired because of this being, them not complying, I think that's the onus is on them as business owners to make sure that they're in compliance.
Board meeting dates for 2022. Let's move on.
And I sent those out to you, and thank you for those that corrected it. I had Tuesday the 28th on there, and it was actually the 29th, so I got that fixed on there. So thank you for bringing that to my attention. But were those dates okay with everybody? Okay. Do they have to vote on the date? All to vote to approve those dates, and then I'll get them posted.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the dates for 2022. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Motion carries. Board updates.
I don't believe I sent you all our new numbers yet. I'll get those out to you. As far as I know, we're doing okay. And we already sent the Go Build check out by the time we met in September, so I think y'all were aware of that. Formal hearings, we had 2, and they both got settled, so we didn't have to hold those. So that's good. Citations, we are thinking of going and doing personal service on ones.
Yeah, we're because of the way that the U.S. Mail Postal Service and the certified mail has worked under the COVID restrictions that the U.S. Postal Service policies have used. It's been difficult to get service on the statutory citations, so we've moved several of them to personal service, which we've had much better success on. But the way that the statute operates is that once service has been affected, the respondent has 15 days to essentially contest that. And so there are several statutory citations where we are being successful in getting personal service, but still within that appeal period.
Using that personal service, what's the cost of that?
That's a great question. I'm not sure on the dollar figure, but I can look that out. And
I ask because we need to make sure that the fine is worth the cost. If we're paying $250 to service a $250 fine, we're not doing the right thing, and I don't want to see that happen.
I think it still ends up being less expensive because we won't have to have a formal hearing. So I think we have to have a formal hearing to close them if we don't do a citation. We can check on that about what the cost.
Yeah, let us know.
And do have an update on Go Build. And since Go Build has undergone some recent leadership changes, Tommy Burleson is now chair. And some of you may know Tommy. He's been a contractor for a long time. So he's now the chair. And we are collaborating with each of the other departments with Go Build to create a special plan that refocuses Go Build back to their original mission and addresses their long-term viability. And this plan will be presented at the next board meeting. Several of our members of Commerce and Insurance have been meeting with the Go Build representatives, and this is something that come out of that meeting. And so we hope to have their director here next time with a better update as well. And then one other thing is we've been asked by our centralized complaints department if we can do a rule that will do away with the certified mail that's required to send out complaints. And so if that's okay with you all, that we don't send out every complaint to a contractor by certified mail, we can move forward with a rulemaking hearing for that.
Are they notified?
It could be just regular mail without it being certified.
How would you know if they got it or not?
In this case, the complaint is more advisory to the respondent rather than an order. So service isn't necessarily as important for the respondent to respond to the complaint. It is a violation of the board's rules, however, not to respond to a complaint or a request or an investigation of a complaint. So the respondent could say that they didn't receive the complaint in the mail, and so that's the reason why they didn't respond. But we can address
Daniel Miracle is now exiting.
We can address several of those concerns within that rulemaking process. So when we go back and look at this rule that does require those complaints to be sent to the respondent by certified mail, we can look at ways of addressing that.
Do you communicate through email with any of these contractors on that? I mean, what would make sense to me would be, yeah, send them an email, and if you get a response or a read receipt back, then you're done. If you don't, then you send them the complaint in certified mail. Are we trying to save money with certified mail, or are we saying it's not working? What's the advantage here?
Yeah.
Hey, thanks everybody. I'm Alex Martin. I'm the Assistant Commissioner for the Division of Regulatory Boards. I just wanted to weigh in here quickly and give the board some necessary context. So most of you probably remember last legislative session we passed the modernization bill, which created some efficiencies and some cost savings for our division. And one of the changes in the bill was it allowed us to not send out all complaints via first-class mail or certified. It was an oversight that the Contractors Board and actually another program as well wasn't included in that language. And so for contractors, it's actually found in the rule. And so this would allow us to have a uniform procedure across the division. And then also in conversations with our centralized complaint center, we've discussed sending out the first notice just by regular mail. And then when there's not a response, sending it out via certified, because as legal mentioned, we do need to make sure that we have service. I just wanted to add that context. I hope that's helpful.
So do we need to make a motion to end certified mail?
Not at this juncture, because we would have to actually change the rule in order to effectuate that change. So you could authorize legal to begin the rulemaking process, which would essentially start by us looking at the rule, making some changes, and of course bringing it back to you all for review. And then we'll start the necessary process to start the notice process for rulemaking hearing. And
I think it would be good if y'all would go ahead and proceed with some type of a draft procedure and then bring that to the board for its approval. That way then we know what we're looking at to begin the process, rather than just do a blanket approval. If you all can present something to us next meeting, we can move forward with it then. Are we going to have an entire board meeting, or a rulemaking hearing just to change certified mail service?
because it's found in our rules, or in the board's rules rather, we would have to amend the rules through a rulemaking process.
We could do like an either or and, something of that to me. So any other board member? All right, but we'll leave it at that then. Is there any other new business to come before the board?
Rulemaking.
Yeah. If we could, Mr. Chairman, if we could request just a 5-minute recess to get a few things squared away before beginning the rulemaking hearing.
Board will adjourn for 5 minutes. With that, we will move into the part of the agenda that is called the rulemaking hearing. John?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just as a way of background and memory, these rules were presented informally. They should be all on y'all's laptops, or excuse me, the iPads, informally at a board meeting in August, I believe. Also, I believe that the Assistant Commissioner Martin had discussed or briefed you with what the rules were attempting to do. So now that we're at the rulemaking hearing, and that the rulemaking hearing has been called to order, my name is John Murphy. I serve as an Assistant General Counsel in the Department of Commerce and Insurance, Division of Regulatory Boards, and I represent the Tennessee Board for Licensing Contractors, which will be referred to as the board during this rulemaking hearing. Would the agency representatives who are present introduce themselves for the record? And this includes both the board members and the executive director. And you can just say your names into the record.
Jennifer Ransom.
Mark Brudd, Knoxville.
Randy Chase, Nashville.
Benny Jones.
Johnson City.
No. Benny Jones, Manchester.
Andy Allen, Knoxville.
Ronnie Tickle, Memphis.
Carolyn Lazenby, Nashville.
She said, wait. The court reporter said, wait.
Could the court reporter, do you recall, record the names? Okay.
Pamela, it looks like you're muted.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble. I'm not able to see the folks on the screen, and so I am not able to, at this point, identify who's speaking. We may need to go back through the roll again and then just make sure each person identifies themselves each time they start to speak, that would help me.
Each time they speak? Yes, ma'am. Okay, so we'll go through the introductions again one more time for the court reporter and for the record, beginning with Ms. Ransom.
Jennifer Ransom, Memphis.
Mark Broad, Knoxville.
Randy Chase, Nashville.
Keith Whittington, Johnson City.
Andy Allen, Knoxville.
Kenny Jones, Manchester.
Ronnie Tickle, Memphis.
Carolyn Lazenby, Nashville.
Pamela, did we?
The very last one, I missed your name, from Nashville.
Carolyn Lazenby.
Lazenby, thank you.
Today is Tuesday, November 30, 2021. This rulemaking hearing is taking place pursuant to Tennessee Code Annotated Section 4-5-204 in Conference Room 1A of the Davy Crockett Tower, 500 James Robertson Parkway, Nashville, Tennessee. It is also taking place by electronic means on the Microsoft Teams app. The purpose of this rulemaking hearing is to solicit public comments on proposed rule amendments to the rules and regulations of the Tennessee Board for Licensing Contractors, which the department has made public. These proposed rules establish, modernize, and streamline when the board has public meetings and when the board may consider applications that are within their discretion. A rule is defined as an agency statement of general applicability that implements or prescribes law or policy or describes the procedures or practice requirements of the agency. Proposed rules are filed with the Office of the Secretary of State, and notice is given to the public, and then a rulemaking hearing is held. Upon conclusion of the hearing and adoption of the proposed rules, the rules are then forwarded to the Attorney General's office for review of legality. If approved, they are filed with the Secretary of State, which is responsible for publication, and the Joint Government Operations Committee of the General Assembly. The rules must stay in the Secretary of State's office for 90 days, then at the end of which time will be the effective date. Those members of the public wishing to speak should sign up at the table at the front of the room. If you're joining remotely and wish to comment, please put your name in the chat box and acknowledge that you would like to comment. Only those who have signed up will be permitted to speak. Oral comments will not be accepted unless you've signed up or first placed your name in the chat box as indicated. The notice of rulemaking hearing included the entire text of the proposed rules and was published on the Tennessee Administrative Register website on September 30, 2021. Additional notice was given to the affected individuals or groups by electronic notification, also known as e-Notify, on Monday, October 11, 2021. Notice of the rulemaking hearing was also posted on the board's website. As the agency hears public comment on the proposed rules, as moderator, I reserve the right to limit such comments if they become repetitive. Please limit your comments accordingly. I will read the substance of the proposed rules into the record as we allow time for public to drop their names into the chat. Rule 0680-01-.021 is amended by removing the specific months that the board meets and substitutes that the board must meet at least 6 times a year and at least once in each grand division. Rule 0680-01-022 is amended to allow applications that have been submitted with the board within a reasonable time prior to the board meeting may be considered at the board meeting. Rule 0608-01-02 is amended by inserting a new subsection 3, which permits the board to consider and approve all applications that are within the board's discretion, prior to a regularly scheduled meeting. These applications may be reviewed and approved by a board member with applicable subject matter expertise. Rule 0680-01-.095 is amended to remain consistent with Rule 0680-01-02 for the consideration of applications. Rule 0680-01-.14.1 is amended by deleting the timing requirement for when a request for change of classification or limitation must be received. Rule 0680-01-.142 is amended by changing the monetary amount requests that must be reviewed or audited by a licensed accountant from $1.5 million to $3 million. Rule 0680-01-.16, which is the Appendix A of Rule 0680-01-.12, which is the classification system, is amended to increase the monetary amount on a small commercial building contractor, which is authorized to bid on and contract from $750,000 to $1,500,000. At this time, we'll pause to see if there's any public comment, either here in the room or in the chat. Kathy, do we see any members of the public wishing to comment in the chat?
No.
As previously stated, notice of this rulemaking hearing was provided by electronic means and an electronic notification on October 11, 2021. Unless there are additional commenters who wish to put their comments on the record, all comments, including written comments, have now been placed on the record. Just also for the record, Kathy, have you received any written comments regarding
I
the
have
record?
not received any written comments.
And Carolyn, have you received any written comments for the record?
No, I have not received any written comments.
Give it another 30 seconds for any members of the public wishing to comment on this rulemaking hearing before the comment period has concluded. Seeing none, at this time, the rules as presented, which are supported by the administration, we're going to summarize the additional documents that are required for rulemaking, along with the rules as presented, and take one roll call vote at the end to approve these rule amendments. There are 3 additional documents that are required to finalize this rulemaking process, or excuse me, this rulemaking hearing. And that's the adoption of regulatory flexibility addendum pursuant to TCA 4-5-401 through 4-5-404. Prior to initiating the rulemaking process, all agencies shall conduct a review of whether a rule will affect small business. There were approximately 18,609 licensed contractors potentially affected by this rule. However, this new rule would require minimal, if no, financial impact on small business. The board does not know of any less burdensome, less intrusive, or less costly way of achieving a more efficient application approval process. The board also does not know of any same or similar rules currently in effect. The proposed rules increase the efficiency in the application review and approval process. The second additional document is the adoption of impact on local governments. And this is pursuant to TCA 4-5-228. The Tennessee Board for Licensing Contractors expects no impact on local governments. adopting the Joint Government Operations Committee additional questions. And this is finally, the board members should have received a copy of the additional information for the Joint Government Operations Committee in your rulemaking packet. All agencies in rulemaking must submit the additional information to the Joint Government Operations Committee pursuant to TCA 4-5-226 I1. Please review those questions and let me know, please review those and let me know if you have any questions. If there are no questions, I'll need a motion and approval of the additional information as well as with the rule amendments as presented to the board. This will be done by roll call vote.
I'll make a motion to approve the rule change as presented to the board.
Who is that speaking, please?
Sorry, Andy Allen would make a motion.
This is Keith Whittington, Chairman. I have a motion and I have a second. Is there any discussion?
Pardon me. Sorry, Mr. Chairman. Just to clarify the motion, it's to approve the rulemaking as presented as well as the additional documents required for the rulemaking process.
Andy Allen, that is correct.
You
Sure.
confirm that with your second, Mr. Tickle? Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote.
Andy Allen,
Yes.
Mark Brudd,
Yes.
Randy Chase,
Yes.
Vinnie Jones,
Yes.
Jennifer Ransom,
Yes.
Ronnie Tickle,
Yes.
and Keith Whittington.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That concludes this rulemaking hearing. Thank you all for being here today.
Thank you, John. We appreciate it. And with that, we will conclude our meeting. I'll entertain a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Everybody on your feet.